Welcome to HyperX's podcast, Unmuted. We have an incredible panel with us today. We're going to have some unfiltered conversation. So why don't we start by introducing ourselves? I'm Sydney Goodman, and I am a host, creator, producer, and list goes on. And then the question that we have is, what made you want to start a career in gaming? So for me, I was planning on being a surgeon, and I worked in a children's hospital. And while I was doing that, I was also streaming, and I realized I liked gaming and content a little bit more than pursuing surgery. And ultimately, that led me here. So maybe we can go in a circle this way.
Sure. So I'm HyperX Garozzo. A lot of people know me as sapphiRe. I work for the Esports team Dignitas as a vice president there, also a former professional gamer, and I work as an observer, which is essentially like an in-game director for a lot of Counter-Strike and Valorant tournaments. And you know, how I got started as a career in gaming, like I actually didn't even think that was possible when I started. I started way back in 2001. That ages me a lot. I was just playing Counter-Strike for fun. Career opportunities like just didn't exist, or they were very niche at the time. Like it always felt like maybe you had to be on the game developer side and that was the only opportunity, or you had to be the best player in the world. And even the best players in the world weren't getting a livable salary at the time. It really took at least a decade, probably a decade and a half until I found a career opportunity. I was working at a health insurance company and doing this gaming thing on the side. And then an esports team called Dignitas reached out to my Counter-Strike team and said, we want you to be pro players for us. And so I eventually joined Dignitas and then moved into a marketing position there. I, again, never thought that was possible. It just wasn't a thing decades ago.
Now, I find that very relatable because I think the year that I got into esports as well, before I dive in, I guess I should mention who I am. Hi, I am Sue Lee, and I also go by Smix in the gaming community. But similarly to you, I think it was around 2008 that I discovered that there was a professional scene for a game called StarCraft. At the time, I was amazed. I had no idea that this video game that I had watched my brother play as the eager younger sister who desperately wanted to get close to him but was continuously pushed away. Before Twitch was even a thing, I was watching him play games all the time because that was the only way I could hang out with him. And I quickly fell in love with this game StarCraft. And then when I discovered that there was an entire professional scene over for it in Korea, I was just fascinated. So that's really how I got started. I began doing a lot of voluntary work for a website. A lot of people know this as a behemoth North American organization as Team Liquid, but once upon a time, it used to be a dinky little fan site for StarCraft, and I was on that site, and we all talked about how StarCraft was this amazing game. And then fast forward, I eventually fell into hosting work. That's when I first learned that you can actually get paid for work in video games, like God forbid. Yeah. You know, I was kind of in the closet during all of this time because my brother was like, why the hell are you into games? That's really weird. People are gonna like defriend you. Mm-hmm. Thank God I didn't listen to him, and then that turned into hosting for a couple of other games. I then began to work at Twitch for 6.5 years. Now I am the VP of Talent Management at RTS.
Yeah, I'm Blau. I was at school and I wanted to, well, I guess didn't want to. I was going to go into counterterrorism research for the CIA or the IDA.
What?
Yeah.
What the heck?
It's a long story. On a whim, I took an internship at PlayStation as a researcher. Within my first week, I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna work in games. And then I worked for a small indie game company after that, known as Riot Games. And I don't know, I just started streaming at some point at Riot. I don't know when. Oh, right, the OTV Rust tournament, or not tournament, the OTV Rust server, for those who know that. I ran into a small streamer named XQC. I joined his team called Team Rocket, and then became a streamer from there. And I quit being a game dev, which was kind of a weird path to take. But yeah, once a game dev, not a game dev anymore. Yeah, so stop asking me for the Riot Valorant gun.
Okay, well, thanks for introducing yourselves. Today's discussion, we're going to be talking about career stereotypes, the reality of it, and kind of the current industry of games. And Clearly, we have a wide array of backgrounds and experiences, so I'm really excited to just like dive into the questions. But off the bat, what is the funniest or maybe the craziest stereotype that you've encountered while working in games? Sue, I feel like your response makes me think that you have a good answer.
I don't know that it's a good answer, but it is one I got very frequently. Before Twitch became what it became today, a game called StarCraft 2 was the #1 game on the platform, and everyone was watching StarCraft 2 on it. And as I got involved in the StarCraft 2 space, as soon as people would find out that I was Korean, because Koreans were the best players in StarCraft 2, the #1 question I always got was, "Oh, you must be fucking amazing at StarCraft, right?" Yeah. And the answer was I was fucking trash. And that has never changed. But that has just been like a assumption, even though StarCraft is now long and gone past being in its prime. People just assume, oh, your APM must be amazing because you're Korean.
Yeah. Well, I think that's interesting, and not to get us too off topic, but I feel like there's this common misconception that to work in games, but also to enjoy games, that you need to be good at it, which I think is just kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Not at all. Like that's just not the case. And in fact, like sometimes we want people not from gaming communities to work at like teams because it brings like an outside perspective. Like we have a lot of people that worked in, we'll call it traditional sports now, like, and give a good background about how to grow like a big media platform too. So there's a lot of interesting things. What is important to me though is that like, if you don't come from a big games background, you at least like want to learn, or you're willing to learn, or you appreciate that competitive gaming exists and content creation is a career path. So that's what's most important to me. And I find like the people that come from non-gaming worlds, they're the most successful when they at least try to dive in and try to learn from it.
Totally. Do you have a stereotype?
Oh, I mean, yeah. Any time I was in a League of Legends match and I am playing Yasuo mid and I feed, and then some mid opponent is then just like, oh my God, you're garbage at your own game. I can't believe. Like, I don't practice the game. Like, and everyone knows okay, and I'm sorry to the Riot League devs, but let's be honest, they're bad at their game, which is true, right? But like, yeah, why would you expect like an animator to be good at the game? Okay, maybe the design team you might expect to be good. I'm sorry.
Actually, you're really just digging a hole by yourself.
Okay.
We haven't said a word.
Okay.
You're just doing this by yourself.
The Riot League team is not good at the game, but I think there are some roles where like it probably makes sense for people to be a little bit, at least have some degree of skill. But I think people like really overestimate the level of skill needed. If you think about the number of jobs, like say you're working in, there's different like parts, like literally at a game company. The only jobs that I can think of that would actually require you to be good at the game would maybe be if you're on like a playtest team, or somewhat like the designers. The Riot Valorant designers, they're good at their game. The league ones.
But because they want to be, not because they have to be in order to do their job.
Honestly, it's
both.
literally just because they got hired from the scene previously. Like I think Volcano, Sal was like a CS pro and then got hired.
That's my husband, by the way. So that's
small world.
Small world, yeah.
Anyways, I did not know that. That was actually so then you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Then you know what I'm talking about. The Valorant devs cracked at their game. The League devs, terrible. And League is still a bigger game, so it's still successful.
What I got from that is you have years and years of pent-up, jaded bitterness at all.
Dude,
talking.
I got flamed by like League players all the time. Like I never get flamed by League players.
That was back in the day when Riot employees had Riot in front of their.
They still do.
They
still do.
Not always.
Oh, really?
Because when my husband worked there, they took it off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But that might just be his talking. I don't know.
Oh.
Trying to quote.
Yeah, you take it away when enough of these kids trash talk you because you're not good at the game. Well, like why would an animator
You still look mad.
I am mad, dude.
You're so mad.
Dude,
I got flamed a lot.
Honestly, League of Legends, if you learn how to play it right, is a very zen game. I find it my relaxing solo queue
I would agree
game.
with that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I flow queue.
Yeah. Solo queue ranked is my zen, relaxing, play my chill step.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see. If I full stack, then it's relaxing because then nobody who's on my team is yelling at me.
You just have to learn the art of preemptive muting. Like as soon as any player stops moving, you sense the trash talk coming. Insta tap mute.
I just turn off chat. That's the best way to play it.
So clearly we've talked about stereotypes that I guess are associated with working in games, and that can make jobs difficult, hard. And for a number of reasons, I think there's a misconception that working in the gaming industry is easy. Would you agree or disagree? Do you think that it's easy to work in games? Is it what you imagined it would be?
It's easy in the sense of, you know, they say like if you find you do what you love, like you never work a day in your life. So like a lot of the things that we do, and I'm sure like Sue would feel the same, like we would have done these for free years ago because we did do it for free for many years because we genuinely cared about it. But like at the same time, like at least on the esports side, it's like in content creation, everything. It's a 24/7 job. When I work for a team, we've got creators and players across multiple time zones. Even though we're an American-based company, like we have competitions that happen on Thanksgiving and 4th of July. Like those holidays don't exist. Like the break we get is pretty much like Christmas to New Year's. And then like there's a lot of added stress in that like you genuinely care about how something succeeds or how about something's done. Like when I worked for my health insurance company, like I turned off my email, didn't look at my computer after 5 p.m. I didn't care, you know. I did my job, I did a good job when I was at work, but like after it doesn't sit with me. I don't worry about what's happening. And I guess on the gaming side, like you genuinely like care and you want this to be a better place and you want things to go well because like this is your livelihood. Like you are part of building this, and so it's not easy in that sense.
I 100% agree with everything that you said, but I also feel like this question is a little too generalizing almost. Like if you were to ask someone, hey, is working in the music industry difficult? Or is working in the film and TV industry difficult? Obviously, those are their own respective verticals, but they have years and years of mainstream buildup where I think to this point, people understand, oh, being an actor, being an actress, working as a director, producer, working behind the scenes in production period, they probably have some level of understanding that is probably not as easy as you think it is. I think gaming has a bit of catch up to do in that regard because in terms of how multifaceted it has become in 2022, it's somewhat recent. I feel like 10, 15, 20 years ago, when you thought about gaming, you're right, it was really just game development or maybe casting, but even that was such a niche, tiny little thing that was going on for no pay at all. Now, at this stage in 2022, I've met people who are working in so many different roles in this industry. So I feel like to say, is working in this industry easy? It's almost like a silly question because there's just so many different occupations now that it's like not even, I think, an appropriate question to ask at this point.
Yeah, well, is it what you imagined it would be?
Well, no, because I never imagined that I would be working in it at all. Because I think when Heather and I first got into it, there was no such thing as working in the industry in the ways that we are doing now. None of this existed. There was no Twitch at the time. There were no content creators that were streaming to hundreds of thousands of viewers at the time. There were YouTubers that were starting to come out, like the OG generation, but really, when you look at this generation of amazing digital content creators, none of that existed. So when you say imagine, again, I didn't imagine it because it didn't exist. I kind of just accidentally fell into it, which I'm very, very thankful for. But yeah, I think to answer your question, I never imagined I would get here, and I'm just trying to be very thankful.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general that's always a good approach, right? But for me, I think that it is and it isn't what I imagined it to be. I think that once I knew that I wanted to work in games, I kind of took a little bit of like a sidestep route of working near games and around games. Like when I worked for Red Bull, I would sometimes work the esports team, but not always. And I just really, really wanted to work with them more. And I think that I thought that once I worked in gaming, like all of my problems would be solved and I would just love my job and it'd be the perfect job and I'd never be stressed because I just love video games so much. And so in that way, I think that like it's an important wake-up call to realize that while you can love your job and love the industry that you work in and be really grateful that it's like, holy shit, like I'm doing this and I'm getting paid and that makes no sense to me, amazing, that it's still a job. And that I think just inherently jobs have pros and cons. And sometimes you need to wake up for a call time and you just don't really want to be up that early, or you have to finish a deck and you just don't really want to do the deck. And so in that way, I think it is everything that I imagined it to be, but also there was this part of me that got pulled back into the realistic expectations of it's still a job, right? And without getting too into like capitalism and corporate America, like there's things that, you know, perhaps need to be ironed out when it comes to like jobs. I'll leave it there.
I think it's easy.
Okay. I like the bluntness.
I mean, I think back in the day it was hard because there were very few jobs. There were people scrapping and fighting over it. Now the industry's big. Like I feel like people can, well, except if you want to be a concept artist, okay? And I'm sorry if that's what you want to. Am I okay to say that?
We're unfiltered and
unfiltered.
unmuted.
Okay, no shame. This isn't shame to concept artists. I can like teach someone how to do what I did for Riot, because honestly, let's be honest, I didn't do much for them.
Wait, what did you do? I don't know.
He just said he didn't do much.
I didn't do
You
much.
did not do much. Okay. Like even just a title or something, so people can get it.
I was a researcher, so I did like research on League of Legends, and then eventually I worked on the R&D department, and I came up with concepts for new games, and then I tested some of the concepts for the new games that they're working on. Oh my God, it's unfiltered. I could talk about the new games here. And violate my NDA, which I would not do, Riot, by the way. That's an important part about working in the industry. Don't violate your NDA. If you ever do that, you won't get a job anywhere else. But I have not violated my NDA. But no, I mean, like, I feel like there's so many jobs, and a lot of it's like, it used to just be, there were so few jobs, so even if you were like going down a route to be like an engineer, or you're going down a route to, you know, work in legal for gaming, there's just so few spots, but now there's just so many that people can do it. The only one that I'm like, I legitimately think you need like, I don't know, blood magic or something to get a job in is a concept artist, because if you've ever looked at like the concept art, I'm just saying that this is me just praising concept artists. If you look at the artists for like Blizzard or for Riot or for like Epic, and you look at like what I can't teach anyone how to do that. You have to just be gifted, sorry. Or practice art. I don't know how art works. Everything but art is easy in games. Yeah. Coding, easy. Animation,
Oh my God.
maybe a little bit harder. Artwork, difficult.
These are really polarizing answers.
Okay.
They said unfiltered, like.
Right, that's what we said. I appreciate you following the prompts. Well, so I'll start with you, Heather, because you've been in the industry for so long. So compared to the past, how has the gaming industry changed? And I know that's a big question, so if you want to narrow it down, even maybe what's like the biggest change that you've seen?
I mean, it's hard to even pick. I'll name a few of just like sold out arenas is big. The biggest competition I went to, we were competing in the back of like, I'm from Milwaukee, and back of like computer stores. And the biggest tournament I was at the CPL, and we were in the Hyatt in a ballroom, and I'm like, wow, this is like as big as it gets, you know, everyone brought their computers here, and it's like, we don't have to even bring our computers anymore. Like that's mind-blowing to me. We were bringing our computers until like 2012 to events. The fact, you know, I guess is more personal, like more women existing in this space. Like when I was at the CPL, I was the only woman in the room, and it was awkward, and I hate standing out, and I don't want everyone to look at me. You know, when I'm trying to meet up with people, it's like, oh, you know, how am I gonna know what this person looks like? I'm like, you're gonna find me easy, because I'm the only one that looks like this. And so that's different. And then I guess just more on the personal sense too, is like, you know, my parents were good in that, like, they trusted what I do. I got good grades in school, so I was able to play, but at the same time, they're like, what are you doing? This is a waste of time. You know, you need to decide on a career path. Gaming's not one of them. And I agreed that gaming wasn't one of them at the time, but their mood has changed so much that now that I brought them to events. I brought them to huge events like ESL Cologne, which is one of the biggest Counter-Strike events in the world, and we were sitting in the front row, and they're with the Brazilian crowd going wild, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, this is real. And then I guess one other thing, from Milwaukee, I'm a big Green Bay Packers fan, and my family lives and breathes the Packers. And now a lot of those Packers, the players are following me and they want to play games with me, and I'm like, what? You know, I'm trying to like play it cool and not be like fangirlish, but like it's just amazing to see like all like the athletes that I always looked up to, because we were like a very sports-driven family, they're all the gamers now, and they want to hang out with the gamers, and so it's just like just seeing all these changes and how like accepted it is and how cool it is, because I never told any of my friends I gamed like for the longest time, and now everyone's like, where are you going next? What tournament are you at next? Like it's just really fun to see that change in the mindset.
Yeah, I +1 to everything that you just said. I think the acceptance part is huge because, as I mentioned earlier, I was like in the closet, so to speak, for a while. I kept all of the gaming crap I was doing secret because I was just terrified of being judged, and my brother was definitely, at the time, very weirded out by his younger sister watching StarCraft matches. He would just hear the Korean commentators going crazy, and he'd be like, what are you doing? But yeah, so acceptance is huge. I'm so happy to see that it is not weird at all anymore to mention that you are working in gaming, and in fact, most of the times the responses are, oh, that's really cool. Like, you know, what do you mean by that? I think viewership, I mean, I just remember back in the day to see someone even getting a couple thousand viewers was like, wow, we are so cool. And then now just a couple days ago, freaking Ibai averaged, no, not average, I think he was at like 3.3 million concurrent viewers on a single channel. Like this is how big we've gotten. By the way, credits to Ibai, he's freaking amazing. So like acceptance, viewership, and I think money, not to make it about money, but again, like back in the day, we used to do everything for free, and we were just happy to be flown out. And then we would be working like 16, 18-hour days for no money and like be happy about it. But now, you know, it's at a point where, you know, it can always improve, of course, but there's a lot more money that has come into the scene across all different types of levels. And it's just really great to see like this industry becoming as sophisticated and developed as it's become. So yeah, those three things. And then I think lastly, like you touched on this as well, but like the ridiculous difference of being a woman in this industry from when we began to where it is today is unreal. Like, and I'm not saying that it's perfect right now. That is not at all what I'm saying. There's still so much that needs to be fixed. But I am just happy as someone who saw what it used to be and what was normalized and the types of words that were thrown around. And as a woman, you just honestly had to take it or you were kicked out. And I think that that was a just understood part of that era, but it's really amazing to see the sort of commentary going on right now and the platforms given to women who absolutely deserve to speak up about what's right, what isn't right, what's fair, what isn't fair. And I love to see it.
Yeah. What about you, Blau?
Oh, like the big things that changed. Esports is wild, right? Like, yeah, I think in 100 years, traditional sports will be dead, and the esports will take over. That's my hot take.
All these hot takes.
No, it won't be unfiltered. Okay, probably not that, but if you actually do look, no, like I mean, if you look actually, I'm not saying all traditional sports. There's gonna be some that continue, but there are like some traditional sports that will actually probably like die out. I mean,
All right, let's get another hot take. Which traditional sport is going to die out?
I would actually be a little bit nervous for American football, actually. I'm gonna get flamed for this
That's
one.
an interesting take.
You are literally gunning for the top right now.
Oh yeah, that one. Okay, I went from
You literally went for the head.
I went from ice hockey, which like offended the like 5 Canadians or something, and then I
You
went
went
to
for the
American.
jugular. What the hell?
Well, the Canadians are gonna be like, oh sure, buddy.
I'm curious. I don't want to get us too off topic, but I am curious why you think American football is going to disappear.
Not
That's
disappear.
interesting to me.
I think the concern I would have for American football is the nature of the sport is so like physical and taxing on the body, and if you look at like the injury rates in the NFL, and then if you look at like, I remember reading this, but like youth participation is what I always look for, right? Where it's like a lot, like basketball is still, everyone's playing that, soccer or football for the rest of the world, everyone's playing that. The question is like, as kids are growing up and as they have access to like play games on their phone or on their tablet or on their PC or on their console, and like if their outlet for competition it's like, what's their outlet for competition? And if it's video games versus like football where you have to like get all these like, you have to get a field, you have to get all this equipment, and like kids are getting injured. Like, I don't know, if I'm a parent, do I want my kid playing Valorant and talking with an upward inflection for the rest of his life, or playing football and like possibly getting severe concussions. When I say this prediction, I'm not saying in the next 5-10 years. NFL's doing great, football's doing great. I'm saying like 50 years. It's a generational thing, right? Like what are our kids going to be playing, right? And also like we're in LA. I know we're not in like a big like football area of America, but like I do think, and it might not be that these sports are going to die out. I think it's that they're going to be, you're going to see like esports or like non-traditional sports rise up way more. I don't know, and they might just wane in influence. I'm gonna get flamed for this comment.
I appreciate your transparency. I appreciate your transparency. Moving on, who do you look up to in the gaming industry? Or maybe have you looked up to?
I'm going to turn red right now because this wonderful woman. No. In that, like, listen, so this is honest.
Wait, this is so sweet.
This is honest in that, like, for so many years I like been behind the camera, you know, like, and it's just, I don't want to share my voice. Like, even doing things like this would have been so uncomfortable so many years ago. And like I've known Sue more from Counter-Strike events. I want to be in her position someday, and like I want to be able to share my voice. And I know like she knows the game so well. Like even before this, we were talking about StarCraft, and I'm like, I'm so impressed like how much you remember about that game. And I've always wanted to be like, I want to be more in front of the camera so I can share. Like I know it's all up here, but like getting it out is it's been so hard for me for many years. You never saw me on camera, like before 2017, there's no videos of me, there's barely any pictures of me, despite me like winning these world championships, and that sucks because I didn't want to be on camera. So it's like, I always thought Smix is so cool, and that, you know, she like shares her voice and does it so like endemically too, and like naturally, and I don't know, I just, you're one of it. And then the other woman was a woman named Allie. She was a Counter-Strike player. She always played, she was known for being on a lot of women's teams, but she was played with a lot of co-ed teams too. And she was just like the most badass woman ever. She was so freaking good at the games. And I just like always wanted to be like her. And I got to be on a team with her and win a world championship. It was very cool. Like that took like 12 years to be able to get to that point. But yeah, it's just like I see these women do these incredible things. I'm like, wait a minute, I shouldn't be behind the camera anymore. Like I should try to like share my voice and share my story, and then hope other women like feel inspired to be more involved in this community. Like there's so many women that play the games, but like you don't see that when you turn on streams or you go to competitions, because there's a lot of fear of like engaging more. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to like break out of my shell, and it's people like Sue that make me feel like, okay, I can do that. I can do that too. Yeah.
I was like, where's she going with this? Oh my God, it's me.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. I'll try to make this quick. There were 3 people that I looked up to at the beginning of my time getting into the industry, and I still do. One was Rachel Seltzer. She was one of the first hosts that were operating, or rather working, in StarCraft 2 at the time. She was there to literally hold my hand and hold me to her bosom as I cried into her chest, sobbing about who knows what. And she's just been one of those amazing, I think, role models for a lot of women who are looking to get into the industry, and especially into a hosting type role, and I think she deserves all the respect in the world for that. Number 2 was Kim Fan, who at the time was working for Blizzard. Because I was a dinky little esports host at the time, she became another sort of mentor-like figure to me, not just on a professional scale, but on a personal scale as well. I do have the fortune of working with her now at RTS because she is my chief operating officer there, but yeah, she's also always been a role model. And then lastly, I'll always have to thank him. There's a guy named Sean Clark who works at ESL. When I first began in this industry, I knew absolutely nothing. I was fucking trash at hosting. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And he took my shitty self and he patiently guided me and taught me everything I know about hosting today. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say I would not be where I am today without all of the guidance that he so patiently shared with me way back when. I think he still plays that type of mentor-like, role model-like role for a lot of people that do know who he is, and I think he deserves all the praise in the world for that. So those are my 3 names.
Thank you. And I appreciate you're right.
Yeah. She's very good at this.
Very good. Well, for me, so I also have more than one, but I'll keep it brief. I think Initially, so there's this woman named Tara Bruno, and she works on more traditional gaming versus esports, but she is just a complete powerhouse in PR, and she eventually went on and founded her own PR firm that like represents a ton of really big games. And I think just her work ethic and how she would show up, and similar to you, she's been in the industry for so long, and my now husband was in the industry far before I was, and I feel like I would go with him to these events and I would see like 1 or 2 women in the room, and Tara was always one of them, and she just made me feel like I can do it, which is so important, and I think both of you kind of touched on. And then another one who's also actually in more traditional games is Jeff Keighley. He is a big mentor of mine, and he really gave me my first shot in the industry, which is, I still can't really believe that that is what happened. But to see how he's parlayed his career and done it in such a poised and inspiring way is, I mean, it's hard not to like look up to that, right?
Yeah, I have two. One from the like dev side, and then one from the creator side. Dev side is if you guys know who Riot Mortdog is. He's the, I think, lead designer on TFT still, but he streams every weekend to like a lot of people and then just talks about the design process behind TFT. And I love the fact that like there's like a designer that is that willing to like go out and like talk to people. It's kind of like what I was maybe wanting to do, and then I realized that I couldn't do both because I suck. So then I just quit the game dev side of it. And I was like, oh, I'll just be a streamer. So then on that topic, on the streamer side, there's been like
Who do you pick?
well, oh, that's easy. Cutie Cinderella.
Let's fucking go.
Like right now, a lot of creators are saying there's kind of like a content drought, like, oh, like what games do we play, or what word do you? And Cutie's just like
chugging it out.
Yeah, just absolutely. Like new event every like 2 weeks. We're doing like, one day we're doing like pottery stream with her, and then she runs the Streamer Awards, which was like going to that, it like actually felt like the Academy Awards, but a little bit more like Papega, like for streamers. So, and it was like, but it was like I was actually blown away by the production quality for it, and like just. And I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be like an awards show for like the next decade probably, right? Like, so she's building out stuff that's like beyond just like, we're eating at this restaurant tonight and doing an IRL stream. It's like, she's building out stuff for like the next decade, which is really cool.
Yeah, she's badass.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for sharing. I know it can be, I don't know, I guess kind of vulnerable to share that kind of stuff. So thanks for keeping it unfiltered. But as we close out, I'd love to go over like what's next for you, what's next for the industry, maybe a bit of both, whatever you feel like answering.
Yeah, I guess on my side, like I said, like I kind of didn't want to be seen for many, many years. And I didn't care that I was a woman in esports. Like I wanted nothing to do, like please don't mention my gender ever, ever, ever. But now I'm realizing like coming from Counter-Strike and then moving over to Valorant, like there's all these like women's competitions, and it's brought like these incredible communities. Like there are so many women when I play Valorant. Like years ago, if you jump into a Counter-Strike lobby and there was another woman, you're like, oh my God, like what are you doing here?
It's a unicorn.
Like, yeah, we gotta be best friends.
So relatable.
But now it's like, I can't tell you how many times that there's 3/5 of the players on the team are women. I'm like, oh, this is so weird to me. And for a lot of the other girls who are much younger, like 16, 17, it's normal for them. So I love what both Counter-Strike and Valorant have done for like women's esports. Again, I used to believe that women's tournaments were like BS. They shouldn't exist. It's stupid. Why don't you just play with the guys? But now I realize how much those have gotten more women to compete, and I really care about competing in esports. So my like mission in life now is basically like hitting up every esports title and say like, let's do a women's tournament together. So I did a huge Valorant tournament last summer. It was the most watched women's esports event of all time. I did a Rocket League event in February. It was the most watched, most participated, highest prize pool women's Rocket League tournament of all time. And now I'm like, okay, let's hit up the whole cycle of games and just get more women like into competing, and then hopefully they graduate to co-ed events. But like that's my like new mission in life, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I love it. Do you have any tournaments coming up that you
I got a
wanna
number
plug
of
or
games I
anything?
can't
Okay,
mention,
but
there's
secret
so
right
many
now.
like game publishers are like, yeah, let's do it. Like let's build something, and like we make sure we never overlap like open qualifiers because we want them to be able to compete in the main events too. And if they don't make it into those main events, let's give them another outlet to be able to compete.
Sue, what
Let's
about
go,
you?
Heather. So for now, I am continuing some freelance esports work here and there. Most recently, I was doing VCT for Valorant, but my full-time job is, of course, working at RTS, which really means I live and breathe helping the creators on our roster. I truly think where we're at in 2022 with how large digital content creators have grown, I think that sort of line that has always existed between, for example, traditional Hollywood talent and digital content creation, it is slowly but surely blurring and disappearing. And now when you find a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and you ask them like, oh, who are you watching on YouTube? Like, what celebrity do you like? They'll oftentimes name a digital content creator, not Brad Pitt. God bless Brad Pitt, he's amazing. But I think this is a generation we're absolutely headed towards, is that digital content creation is the future. And I think when I look at the pioneers in the space and the amazing creators that we work with, I think they truly are, the leaders in setting that next generation of where digital content creation can go. And you have the likes of like Cutie Cinderella, who are constantly changing the meta. You have the likes of people like Pokimane, who are continuing to dominate at the top, and for very good reason. And I am just very honored and privileged to feel like I can help support in the way that I can, working at RTS. And so I'm just excited for everyone to see what's in store over the next year. There's a lot of cool shit happening across all of our creators, so stay tuned.
Yeah. For me, I think that I've been really privileged to get to kind of piece together a career that I'm excited about. I recently started working in more like the game dev capacity in addition to doing like front of camera work. And I think that I hope as the industry is evolving, because I think there's so many multifaceted individuals working in the industry, that we can continue to see people not necessarily getting boxed into, I mean, very similar to you, like, oh, you work on the game dev side, like that's what you do research, and that's what he's gonna do. But rather we can all like keep our minds opened as people get to explore and kind of fully flourish as they're contributing to the industry, because I think that ultimately like that collaboration is what's gonna continue to take gaming to the next level.
Yeah, I think for me so it's not just Cutie doing it, but there's kind of like this like host of people that are like creating the next like kind of things going on, and it's people like it's Cutie, it's like Toast has been doing a lot of them. Ludwig does like Ludwig's been doing these crazy just like Fall Guys tournament, like Fortnite tournament, like these like creator tournaments.
Ebuy, man.
Yeah, eBuy as well. Like there's like the creators. Like right now, I'm just like a participant and stuff. I'm just like, thanks for inviting me, guys. Really excited to be here. And people joke that I'm a contest winner every time that I get invited to one of these, because it's the only way they'd invite me. Thanks HyperX for letting me win the contest. But like after that, I want to start creating some of these things. Like I want to start creating my own, whatever that is, like my own show or my own like tournament, or like start like putting myself up there to like do the things that like some of those other streamers that I look up to are doing. So that's kind of like what's next to me, is like what's the thing that I'm going to start creating as opposed to just like being a part of.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody so much. And we hope that today's discussion gave you a glimpse into the gaming industry, and that we can continue to have more discussions like these to move the industry forward. So if you had any thoughts on today's discussion, go ahead and comment below. We'd love to hear from you.